following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant good evening to you wherever you may be. It's Comfortably Zoned Radio, and right now it's time for Dodgers baseball, a tale of two cities from Brooklyn to Los Angeles. My name is Peter Trunk. My co-hosts, Fred Wallin and Ron Rabinovitz. Fred Wallin is on assignment. Ronny Rabinovitz, how are you?
Oh, I'm terrific. Peter, after that win today, I'm glowing. I'm terrific.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. We have a guest tonight. If you listened to last week's show, you already know who it is. If you didn't listen to last week's show, what the hell's wrong with you? Go back and listen to last week's show. Anyway, his name is Bernie Rose. He now resides in Florida. He's a big, super-duper Dodger fan. Bernie, welcome aboard once again.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Ron. Great to be here.
You bet.
Okay.
Thanks, Peter. Bernie, glad to have you again.
Yes, absolutely. And it comes on the heels of another nail-biting Dodger victory in the postseason. The Dodgers, between last night and tonight, probably gave a whole bunch of their fans heart attacks and strokes throughout the country. And it's almost indescribable. And as someone said, my Facebook feed today, I read it this morning, and this was only referencing last night's game, not today's game. But it really, really underlines after two games like this in a row. Vince Scully would have said, "Leave it to the Dodgers."
He sure would.
Right. After a game or two like this, Vince Scully would have said, "Leave it to the Dodgers." And you know what? The man was right. Well, he was right about a lot of stuff. But
yes, he was.
That's perfect way to put it. Leave it to the Dodgers. Just when you're tearing your hair out and you think they're going to lose, something happens and they don't lose. And just when you think they're going to drive in a run, they don't drive in a run. But then something weird happens and the run scores anyway. And guys are getting thrown out trying to take the extra base while other guys are coming around scoring. Just incredible, heart-stopping baseball. Maybe not always played well, not always played cleanly and by the book, but certainly heart-stopping and very, very exciting. And speaking of not by the book, etc., I want to get right down to it. I want to talk first about last night's game, and I want to talk about Manny Machado. I'm going to ask Ronny to give his thoughts on Manny Machado last evening.
Wow. Manny Machado is Manny Machado. He got fined today. Thank God he didn't get suspended. But he plays the game in a different way. He does it his way. It's not always what people want, but that's who he is. But boy, did he come around that third baseline yesterday at 2:30 in the morning. Oh, he was hustling them to score the winning run. But
in case any of our listeners have no clue what the hell we're talking about, Manny Machado got into trouble, and my partner Ron Rabinovitz just alluded to the fact that Major League Baseball fined him today. They did not suspend him, but they fined him. And what he did was he says it was inadvertent. I watched the replay 100 different times on 100 different stations, including the internet. It was definitely on purpose when he kicked Aguilar's ankle, because Aguilar was bold enough to keep his foot on the bag and not take his foot off the first base bag immediately upon retiring Manny On the ground ball, by the way, in the hole at shortstop, which Manny only ran 3/4 speed again. And when asked why he didn't hustle, Manny said, I can't really quote him here, but I will paraphrase, and you can look this up. He said, "That's not my cup of tea. I'm not a hustling type of ball player. I've been in the league for 8 years, and for 8 years I've never really hustled, so I'm not going to change my game now." And you know what? If you don't believe what I just said,
right? And it's not my cup of tea.
It's not my game, not my cup of tea. Now, I know if you're a baseball fan, why else would you be listening to this show? But if you're a baseball fan and you missed that, and you just heard me say that, and I know what you're saying to yourself, that can't be true. That's impossible for a Major League Baseball. It's true. He said it.
It's true.
He said it's not his style. It's not his cup of tea. Now I'm telling you, before I ask for our guest's reaction to that, I go on record right now saying I was very excited when the Dodger front office got us Manny Machado at the trade deadline. Now I'm going to go on record and say if he goes 4 for 4 tomorrow night with 4 Grand Slam home runs, I will still be counting the days until he takes off that Dodger uniform for the final time, because I can't stand the guy. Bernie Rose, what is your reaction to Manny Machado?
Well, last night was an unusual, it was happenstance. He really didn't kick him, all right, to be fair. He dragged his left foot across Aguilar's ankle, right?
Yeah.
And he should have stepped off the base. I've been watching baseball for 60 years, I've been watching baseball for a long time, probably more than 60 years. And every time they catch the ball, they step off first base.
Right.
If they can.
What was he doing?
He didn't step up. He
kept his foot. He was covered a third of the base at least, if not almost half.
Right.
Now, there was plenty of room for Machado to not do that.
Right.
Because, first of all, he wasn't running that fast, right?
Yeah.
Because that's not his game.
Right.
But that was shocking to me.
Yeah.
There's no need for it.
How about the slide into second base?
And then
I was just going to go to that. There were 2 slides to second base.
Well, how about the slide? Okay. Let me reference the slide where he actually touched the guy with his hand.
Right. On his leg.
He reached out. Both
totally
times, really. One was more than the other. I'm like, what is he trying to get thrown out? Is he trying to? I don't know what he's trying to do there. And
I thought that
you
was
know what?
more worst play of the 2. I thought that was the worst one of all.
I did too, but they made a whole big deal at the thing at first base.
Yeah.
Now, Harold Reynolds on television pretty much said that the 2 plays sliding into second, that's just baseball. I've seen other guys do it too, but, I don't know. It wasn't necessary. You weren't really, if you did break up the DP by doing that, they're going to call it interference anyhow.
Which they did.
Although if you want to go back to Reggie and the hip, they didn't call that interference.
Different game. They made a
that
rule a couple of years
Dodgers
ago.
a World Series.
They made a rule a couple of years ago after the Posey rule at home plate.
Right.
They made another rule at second base where you have to slide into the bag, not away from the bag or past the bag. And
That's
you can't touch the guy with your hand. So knowing that rule, Machado broke the rule twice. And no matter what Harold Reynolds says or how he wishes baseball was still the way it was when he played, it's not. It's different.
Well, that's true, too. And
it
then
could be, but it's not.
And then he said the thing at first base, he goes, I didn't like it. It didn't really have to be but it wasn't that big of a deal. And I'm almost taking that position. It wasn't hard. Nobody got hurt. I just don't know what's going through the man's head. There was no reason to do that.
Did you hear or read what Oral Hershiser said?
What? No.
Oral Hershiser, a stalwart in the history of the Dodgers. It belongs to the Dodger Hall of Fame.
Yes, he does.
Great pitcher, especially in the postseason. Just a wonderful pitcher. Now does color with the Dodgers on TV and radio out in L.A. He called Machado's antics embarrassing.
Yes, he did.
Embarrassing for the Dodgers and embarrassing for himself. He embarrassed himself.
I would agree that there's no need for that at all. I don't know if it really bothered me as much as some, but just play the game. That's all I've ever really.
Well, let me play devil's advocate.
Let me just tell
wait
you
a minute. Let me just play devil's advocate. Suppose Machado was a Milwaukee Brewer, and he did that to Muncy, and he slid in to Kiki like that, or Seager like that, or Turner
Ron,
like that.
What are you going to say?
What I'm driving at, and what I'm trying to get you to admit. Evidently, I'm not going to be successful. Trying to admit that you see it from a Dodger standpoint. Well, who's a bigger Dodger lover than Oral Hershiser? And he called it embarrassing. True. I call it worse than embarrassing. The reason why he called it embarrassing is because he's on TV. He couldn't say what Yelich said in the Milwaukee clubhouse. He said, and I quote, this is what Yelich said in the Milwaukee clubhouse. You can look it up. Mm-hmm. He said, it was a dirty fucking play by a dirty motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's a direct quote. That's a direct quote from the soon-to-be named most valuable player in the National League in 2018.
Correct, but it was also a direct quote after losing in 13 innings.
Yes.
And when they could have been up 3-1.
I admit it. I admit it.
And I would like to think, of course, I can't prove otherwise, that what I feel now, I'd feel if the shoe was on the other foot. But that being said, I don't know that I would be.
All that being
I'd like
said,
to think that I would be. Ron, what about you?
Okay, all this being said, the fact is, if Manny Machado had not been with the Dodgers, they probably would not have made the playoffs.
Well, that might very well be true.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
But that doesn't excuse a guy for doing what he did.
No.
I know.
That doesn't excuse it. Let me ask you a question, Ronny.
That's how they played hard ball.
I think it's been blown a little bit out of proportion, frankly.
Yeah, I think so, too.
Ronny, let me ask you a question, Ronny.
Right.
Do you think that Machado hurt his marketability with those antics?
No. Not at all.
Not at all?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Jim Thome, Hall of Famer Jim Thome on TBS before the game said he definitely injured his marketability because front offices will take that into consideration this winter. Do we want a guy who says hustling is not my cup of tea, and then he kicks the first baseman's ankle and slides into the shortstop and gets called for it?
But
Jim
Peter,
Thome said it will hurt.
He came around third base in the 13th inning. He was hustling like crazy.
Big deal. It was the game-winning hit.
That's right.
Yeah, did you see him jump into whoever's arms it was? I don't know. I don't. In the end, I don't think it's going to make one bit of difference either.
No,
I don't.
Well, I'll tell you one bit of difference it's going to make. The Dodgers aren't going to make any move to try to sign him. There's one team right there. One team right there.
So?
No way. The Dodgers can't wait for him to leave town.
Probably so. Especially if Seager is going to be okay. You know.
And I'll tell you this: the next time Machado comes to Dodger Stadium in the future with his new team, he will be roundly and soundly booed.
Not if they win the World Series.
Well, you know what? Like I said, he's got to have something to do with winning the World Series. If he doesn't run out ground balls and they win despite him, that's not going to change anybody's mind.
No, he in the clutch has not done what we'd like him to do, but he is hitting .316 in the series.
Yeah.
And that's probably high on the team. No, actually, Taylor, believe it or not, is hitting .333 in the series.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, Taylor's having a good series. And
okay, let's get off Machado. Let me ask you this, Bernie Rose, explain to me the reincarnation of Pedro Baez.
I was waiting for that. What is going on?
How does that make sense to you?
If it wasn't dark out, I'd be checking to see if the sky was blue. Because I don't know what world we are living in.
He's been lights out. He
is for the last, 4 weeks? I mean, right down the stretch, right into the playoffs.
The last time he gave up a run was August the 9th.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Did you see him throwing 97 and then dropping those sliders on the corner at 89? I mean, he's been unbelievable.
He's been lights out. You're right.
How is this possible? Every time he came in last year and the beginning of this year, he would give up line drive home runs all over the place.
Yeah.
He was terrible. He could blow a 10-run lead in 3 minutes.
Yeah, he could.
He's adjusted something. He did some adjustment when he went back down minor leagues. I'm sure.
Well, you want to know something, Ronnie?
Yeah.
That was Ronny Rabinovitz. I have to agree 100%. I don't know what he did, but I'm sure it wasn't one little thing. I'm sure it was like 3 or 4 things that he did. And we'll never know unless he talks about it or writes a book or an article or something, or Honeycutt writes a book, the Dodger pitching coach. But just absolutely amazing turnaround from god-awful to like scary
lights
good,
out.
frighteningly good. They can't touch the guy. They can't smell him.
He's come along at the right time. And all of a sudden, I didn't mean to interrupt, all of a sudden Jansen is throwing 95 again.
Yeah.
And
he looked good.
I don't know what's going on, but if these
you stole my next, Bernie Rose, you stole my next subject. How the hell do you go from not being able to throw 91 for about 7 weeks to one day you come out today and you throw 95 consistently, and we're talking about Kenley Jansen? How does that work?
Right.
Well,
and look what he did last night with pitching 2 innings. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and yet they needed him for 1 out tonight just to play it safe. And I don't blame them. There's a day off tomorrow. You know, what did he throw? 5 pitches maybe? You know, I mean, that was an okay move. I don't know what the deal is with his heart problem and whatever medication he may have been on. Either they switched it or he went off it because they felt like he didn't really need it. He's had this before, so they know how to deal with it with him. They know what he needs to do in the off season, and apparently he can pitch. And so whatever they did, they got him back to being himself. And frankly, right at the right time.
At the right time, exactly.
Sure. Baez and Kenley Jansen, right at the right time. Let me ask you guys
a question.
Go ahead.
What did you think of taking out Wiley after one pitch, one batter today? What was that all about?
Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, thank you. it is to me, it's a personal thing. This is my personal reaction, and that is that Greg Counsell is trying to reinvent the game. It happens in the fall a lot of times. It started years ago with Tony La Russa. Okay, he tried to reinvent the wheel himself. Then, most recently, it was Joe Madden. I don't know if you remember, but Joe Madden was using Chapman every other minute and almost burned the guy out for his whole career and almost blew the World Series a couple of years ago. These guys, they start batting pitchers eighth. They don't bunt for the entire season, and then in the postseason, all of a sudden he's bunting. You know what? When he took Miley out after the first guy, I said to myself, "This is he wants to make a storyline for himself." How does this make any sense whatsoever? Bernie Rose said 6 or 8 minutes ago, "I've been watching baseball for 60 years," and then he said probably longer than 60 years. Between the three of us, we've been watching baseball for almost 200 years. Okay? Have you ever seen a manager? Well, think about it.
That's right.
It's true. Between the three of us, or among the three of us, between only goes for two people. Among the three of us, we've been watching baseball for 200 years. I defy either one of you to say that you have seen a manager do that. Leave a guy in for one batter and take him out, unless the guy had an injury.
Yeah.
Right.
Or unless he was thrown out of the game. I remember years ago in the postseason when Roger Clemens was thrown out for arguing balls and strikes in the very first inning. But for him to do a thing like that, it makes no sense whatsoever. It doesn't make any sense. What is he trying to do? Trick the Dodgers into using their left-handed lineup, and then he's switching to a right-handed pitcher, and
it certainly seems that way. But go ahead.
Yeah, but that's weak. That's weak.
I'd love to see.
That
I'd
is
love to
weak.
see the Milwaukee.
It turns it into a joke.
Bernie, that's weak tea. If that's true, I mean, I remember reading stories about Leo DeRocher, where he would have a left-hander like Joe Hatton or somebody like that warming up on the field. You know, the pitchers used to warm up right beside home plate back in the day. He would have a right-hander under the stands warming up. And after the lineups were announced and given to the home plate umpire, lo and behold, the left-hander wasn't really starting for the Dodgers. It was the right-hander who had warmed up underneath the stands. Now that's something altogether different.
Right.
That's altogether different.
No,
it is crazy. It's crazy.
Already. I mean,
but it's
he had a warm up. I mean, he was pitching, warm up before he went in. I mean, and now he's going to pitch in another day and a half. It's weird.
It makes absolutely no sense, really.
No, I want to see what the sports writers in Milwaukee say about it.
Makes no sense.
I'll bet
If you looked at my comments that we've been having this whole series, all of these games, from the very beginning, I said, what's the matter with Counsell? This guy's weird. What's he doing? What was that move all about? 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 He's been weird. He's been consistently weird the entire series.
He's trying to be way too cute. And here's a funny thing about this. And if we go back to last week's show, and if any of the folks out there were listening, the point I made, we probably all made it, but and was that for the Dodgers to win this series, I picked them in 6. I certainly hope that's the way it goes. But they had to beat up on their starters because their starters were weak and their bullpen is strong. And their bullpen is strong. However,
yes, it is.
The strangest turn of events in this whole wacky series, the way it's playing out is they can't hit these starters.
Right.
And I'm going to call Woodruff a starter because Miley pitched to one guy. And they're scoring all the runs pretty much off the relievers. Even though
it's nuts. That's nuts.
3 of the runs got charged to Woodruff, but that's because the reliever, knocked in a couple. They got the hit off him, but charged to Woodruff. But the bullpen has been phenomenal for them.
Yeah.
Seems like every single one of these guys throws 97, 98 on the corner. Even though the ump, for my money, is calling a lot of pitches off the plate strikes.
Yes,
but
he was. Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Be that as it may.
Some of our listeners don't know that the three of us text back and forth during the game. And it was so funny when he took out Wiley. Peter says, WTF. And I said, WTF. And Bernie said, WTF. It was so funny.
We all said it at the same time.
We all said, what the hell is going on here?
There was another incident that happened in last night's game, and I don't think Bernie saw it because Bernie was on the road. He might have been listening on the radio. He might have seen a replay. I don't know. But there was a time, we'll go back to Manny Machado again. Machado's up. He's got 2 strikes on him. He calls for time from the umpire. The umpire doesn't give him time. It's way too late. The pitcher's already winding up. He calls for time and steps out of the box.
Yeah,
and the pitcher just floats one over the plate, and it's strike 3, and he's out. What? Talk about
I don't know what's going on with him.
You know what? There's something wrong there.
All you really have to do is look at his hair.
Yeah, he's off. He's off. You're right. That's a good point. I remember at the trade deadline. I remember at the trade deadline when he came over to the Dodgers, and his first game in the dugout, and like Ronnie said, we all text back and forth during the game, and the camera went on Machado in the Dodger dugout, and I said, well, one thing's for certain, Justin Turner doesn't have the worst haircut anymore.
I remember that.
Okay. Unbelievable. Just incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, what's this guy thinking? What's he thinking?
I don't know. But his, his OPS for the series is 935.
Manny Ramirez, he used to do things like that. I mean, and Puig does the little goofy things plenty. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's just him.
Valid
point. He's not that thrilled with Puig either. But
no, I'm not. I don't like his antics. You leave them at home. If you can consistently miss the cutoff man, and you're going to consistently make up your mind to swing before the pitch is thrown, and then when the pitch is 4 feet outside and it only goes 58 feet, and you're swinging.
I know.
I have a problem with you. I have a problem with you when you do stuff like that.
I thought he learned. Those last 2 games that he was doing that.
It seems
they brought him in today. He went 2 for 2, knocked in a run. I have come to put up with some of his antics. I don't mind some of them, but I have to say this. I never thought he was going to really hit over 240. He's somehow, some way coming along. He may never be a 300 hitter. He may never hit 30 home runs, but he seems to hang in there, hit 265, 270, hit 25 home runs, not get or whatever. But
he's got all the talent.
Yeah, he does.
The head,
Let's talk about south of the border,
Colorful.
I wanted to, colorful is a good word for it.
Colorful.
Yeah.
He's colorful.
He's colorful, all right. He's colorful.
Let's talk about Doc.
No, we'll talk about Doc in a minute, if I may, please.
Yes.
I have to get this off my chest.
Okay.
The camera goes on Aguilar, the first baseman from Milwaukee. Aguilar's got a blue plastic bag. Okay. With
I saw that
something in it. I'm going to guess they were seeds. sunflower seeds. He's got a blue plastic bag with a hole in the top.
Yeah.
And he's shoveling the seeds or the candy or whatever into his mouth on the field between pitches.
That's crazy.
Now wait. Stop right there. Don't say a word. The three of us have been watching baseball for 200 years among us. Have you ever seen a ball player on the field? It doesn't matter if it's postseason. And it doesn't even matter if it's an exhibition game. Have you ever seen a Major League Baseball player on the field eating food out of a bag between pitches? There's something wrong here.
No. I was waiting for someone to bring him a hot dog.
Bernie, there's something wrong. There's something going on, and I'm missing it. I don't get it.
How do you know the seeds?
Well,
I don't get it.
Might have been something else.
I really don't get it.
It could be.
It could be, from Colorado.
Yeah, that's some juice or something.
Those seeds could be treated.
Unbelievable. Okay, I know my guest. I know our guest Bernie Rose wants to switch the subject to Doc right now. We want to talk a little bit about the Dodger manager, Mr. Roberts. Good name for a movie. I have a question before you start talking about Doc Roberts. How the hell does the guy I'm talking about last night? How the hell does a major league manager use 9 pitchers in a game that he eventually wins? How is that possible?
I don't know.
The team struck out 17 times and they used 9 pitchers. You would think they lost 15-3.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would.
If they won.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Go ahead. Talk about your man. Talk about your manager now. Talk about Roberts. Go ahead, Bernie Rose.
Well, the other day he used all his reserves before the 7th inning or by the 7th inning.
Yeah, nobody left.
Yeah.
Nobody left.
Bottom of the 6th inning, he had no one left on the bench.
I don't understand some of the moves. And last year,
shades of Dusty Baker in the All-Star game when he ran out of players.
Right. And last year in the World Series, we were so, I don't know, beyond the moon or exasperated, whatever you want to say, because we felt like they could have won, and there's a lot of moves. But I have to say, he has hung in there with this team in this series, and they're scoring late. I mean, all 3 of the wins for half the game, they look horrible. 3/4 of the game, they look terrible. I thought they were going to get no hit today. I mean, after 4 innings.
They had no hit for how many innings? 4 innings. That's right.
And somehow, some way, and they end up with 9 hits, 5 runs. They end up getting 4, hits with runners in scoring position, albeit 4 for 13.
Yeah.
But it's not 0 for 13.
Right.
And the moves that he seems to be making all seem to be turning into gold somehow, except in the 4-0 loss.
Okay, give me a move that he made either last night or tonight that turned into gold.
Well, they're one of those things.
I'm not trying to embarrass you. I'm just asking you a question because I'm here to tell you this. Here's what I'm here to tell you. If Roberts was in the hospital and they asked and Friedman called you on the phone and flew you out to L.A. and made you the manager for today's game, and you were standing in today's dugout from the first pitch to the last pitch, did the Dodgers win the game?
Today.
Did the Dodgers win the game or did they lose the game?
If I'm the manager?
Yeah, today.
They probably lose.
That's false humility. That's false humility, Bernie Rose. If you were standing in the dugout, if you were standing in that dugout and you had your bench coach next to you or whatever, and you managed the Dodgers today, the Dodgers still would have won that game. Nothing, my point is simple. Nothing Roberts did today helped the Dodgers win the game. Not too many things that he did helped them lose the game because, in fact, they did not lose the game. But I defy anyone to tell me what magical move or moves, plural, did Roberts make today that secured the Dodgers' victory?
I don't know if it's magical. I like the way he moved everybody around. I mean, Taylor played left, center, second, back to left.
Yeah.
Bellinger was in center, right field, center field. Then Dozier went in the second. I mean, Muncy was playing second, and he was playing first. I mean, he kept people where he wanted the people to be. Hernandez was in right. He ended up playing second. I mean,
right.
I just all fell into place. I mean,
it sure did.
And then he brings in Puig at the right time, ends up going 2 for 2 with an RBI. He could have taken Kershaw out. He left him in, and Kershaw ended up pitching a hell of a game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great job.
I love the way he went to the curve and the slider almost exclusively. His curveball hadn't looked that good all year. It was phenomenal.
He had to go to the breaking pitches because his fastball was a non-existent thing. He's thrown 88, 89. Sometimes he would reach 90, but I thought he was very, very smart in that he was showing the fastball, but he wasn't throwing it over the plate where he would have gotten tattooed. But, a lot of times when you're the host of a show such as this, you have to play devil's advocate. And I was sorry to put you on the spot like that,
That's
being
quite
Dodger
all right.
manager. But I'm trying to get a thing going here. Who's the forgotten man? Where's Kemp in all of this? Is Kemp the forgotten Dodger?
Yeah,
at the moment
he is. At the moment, he is. Yeah.
I wish Grandal was be the forgotten Dodger, but I think he is for the rest of the series.
I'm going to tell you something. It's funny you should say that. When what's his face got the hit up the middle, the single line drive single up the middle, Barnes, he solidified the fact that Grandal will never start again.
No.
Right.
Never start another game.
Yeah.
From 2005, from the NLDS with the Mets right up through this series, that's, that's 4 straight years of playoffs. Do you think Grandal's average is higher than 103?
Gee, that seems really low.
Phenomenal.
Since you brought it up, I'm going to say it's not higher than 103.
You're right, because that's exactly what it is.
Really?
103, 7 for 68, 1 for 10 against the Mets in the NLDS in 2015, 2 for 16 against the Nats in the NLDS in 2016, 1 for 12 against the Cubs in the NLCS in 2016, which is why last year he didn't see the light of day in the playoffs. If you remember, at the end of the season, they gave it to Barnes.
Yeah, they did.
He only went 0 for 4 against Arizona.
And yet Grandal this year, who we thought Barnes was going to take over as the number 1 catcher.
Exactly.
Well, Barnes didn't hit.
He didn't hit all year, Barnes.
Barnes didn't hit. That's why. It was his job to lose, and he lost it.
Right.
Yeah.
So last year in the playoffs, Grandal only got 4 at-bats against Arizona, only 1 against the Cubs, and that's 5 games, and only 3 in the World Series. So now, in the NLDS this year against the Braves, Grandal went 1 for 13, and it was a bad 1 for 13. He's been pathetic for 3 months.
Yeah. Oh, behind the plate, he's been pathetic. I mean,
he doesn't know, and that makes it worse.
Look at the stops that Barnes did today. That Grandal never would have been able to do.
No, and he fell apart in that game, too.
Oh, my God. That was a horrible game.
Right. Or was that was game 1? I don't remember what game it was.
Grandel
Reds have
handles
2 hits in this series, but it's 2 for 9, and the defense has been horrible.
Yep.
So he's
Grandel,
gone.
he handles the baseball like a wet bar of soap. It's bouncing all over the place. He's trying to catch it. It's squirting out of his hand, and he's horrible.
Oh, he had a
but
terrible.
You know what, Bernie? Thank you for doing homework and bringing that statistic onto the show tonight. He's hitting 103. What is he now? 6 for 68? What did you say he was?
7 for 68 in the playoffs.
7 for 68.
103. How do you like
I bet you Kershaw's hitting higher than that.
Yeah, I bet he is too.
Well, he may be. He may be.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And Barnes is faster than Grandel, too, on the bases. He's faster.
Disgraceful.
Yeah.
All season long, we've been saying the same thing about Grandal, that when the score is 1-1, he'll strike out on 3 pitches. When the score is 8-1, either way, he'll hit a line drive home run into the upper deck somewhere. That's his MO. That's his cup of tea.
We've talked about him. He's so not clutch. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Speaking of not clutch, what's Bellinger's numbers? I know he got that beautiful line drive to left center tonight, but what is he, like 4 for 36 or something?
Well, before last night, and I was going to do more work on Bellinger because that was also in the mix. Bellinger was 15 for 85 in the postseason in the 2 years before last night. That's a 176 average. And you know he was bad in the World Series. Oh, I mean, he struck out like 20 times or something, or whatever.
He struck out 17 times in 24 at-bats.
Yeah.
But there were a lot of guys that were bad in the World Series that didn't hit. A lot of them.
But he got 2 for 4 last night.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's included in his 15 for 85. I don't think it is, but it may be. But he went 2 for 4 last night and 1 for 3 today.
Yeah.
And, so that's 3 for 7.
Yeah.
So maybe he's on a new trend. And all of a sudden, I liked what he did. He had the walk today. He had the single. Yep. He scored a run. He knocked in the winning run last night. Yeah. When he led off the game with a walk, and you had mentioned he's never led off in his life.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know. But then he walked and stole a base. And I said, that's what a leadoff hitter's supposed to do.
Exactly what he's supposed to do. Now, was Roberts prescient or lucky?
That's a good question. That's one of the things I wanted to bring up there. And where did he get the confidence in Ryan Madsen? Because I got to tell you, I thought they were crazy to pick him up. I know he's got good postseason experience and stats, but his ERA was over 4.
You know what?
And his first time in with the Dodgers, he got pounded. And I'm like,
you know what, Bernie?
What are they doing
this
with
is another guy. Well, the best I can describe it is if you go back and you look, if there's any way you could do that, my memory in baseball is pretty good, not in real life, but Madsen was throwing 89-90 when he was getting his ears pinned back. All of a sudden, this guy's throwing 96, 97. He even pitched 98. Where does that come from? How does a guy... Now, we just finished talking about Kenley Jansen. He was struggling at 90 and 91, and now he's throwing consistently at 95. Madsen was struggling at 88, 89, and now he's throwing 96, 97. Where do these guys, all of a sudden, they turn the corner and they can throw hard?
I guess they went into Robert's office, and he said, "Go get him, boys." I'm just kidding. I don't know.
That's the only explanation I have with Madsen. When you're a relief pitcher, when you're any kind of pitcher, but especially a relief pitcher, if you don't have a dipsy-doodle type of thing, like a knuckleball or a crazy pitch like Mariano Rivera, like a cutter, or like Bruce Sutter had, the fork ball, that went down. Scott had one.
Oh, he had that. He was the first one to throw that pitch. What the hell did they call that pitch? Bruce Sutter.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a fork ball. The split finger. He invented that freaking pitch.
Yeah, and then you know who learned it? And instead of driving a UPS truck, remained a Major League Baseball pitcher for 4 or 5 years was Scott. Remember the right-handed blonde guy that the Mets used to have? They traded him to Houston.
Mike Scott.
Yeah, Mike Scott. All of a sudden, he started throwing that pitch. He started throwing that split finger pitch, and all of a sudden, no one could touch him. No one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, get back to my original point about Madsen and these guys. If you don't have a weird pitch like that, like a split finger or a knuckleball or a cutter like Mariano had, you have to have a lot of mustard. You have to throw hard up in the zone to make your other pitches, your slider, your curveball, whatever, your change of pace, to make them more effective. You've got to show that you can throw hard. If you're only throwing 88, 89, they're going to be hitting the ball off the wall.
Oh, no question.
Against you. You got to be able to come back from a breaking pitch and throw 97 nowadays. That's the way you blow these guys away, and Madsen is doing that. Madsen has surprised me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember earlier in the season when they brought up Ferguson?
Yes.
And we were all going, this kid's not ready. Send him back down. Who, what, and how? But he's become an extremely important part of that bullpen.
So let's name 3 of them then, Bernie. Pedro Baez, Caleb Ferguson, and Ryan Madsen. They all did an about-face, and they went from ineffective to extremely effective.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't know.
Therein lies the Dodgers' success.
Right there. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right there. That's the crux of it.
No
It certainly isn't because of Grandal.
I mean, look at
all of these guys that pitched in, while Ryu was out 3 months, Kershaw was out 2 months, every starter was on the DL for a little while, and of course another forgotten man is Stripling.
Stripling's not even on the roster.
Not even on the freaking roster.
Nope.
No.
Unbelievable. And he had a good year.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine.
Yeah, he did.
At one point, he was going so well that I referred to him, Stripling, as our ace.
Numerous times.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Exactly.
And he pitched like it.
He was red hot.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched like it. He made the All-Star team.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
He lost the game, but
right.
he made the All-Star team.
He did.
And then he had a little hiccup in the second half, but he wasn't pitching badly at all.
No.
He had a sub-3 earned run average for the year. I'm pretty sure of that. I don't know. I don't know why. How do you go from having extreme faith in the guys that we were just mentioning and then losing it in Fields and Stripling? Fields was out for 2 months also, but he pitched well all year. And these guys were like forgotten.
And then conversely, guys like Baez and Madsen and Ferguson, who you had no faith in whatsoever, they turn an about face, and all of a sudden they're getting everybody out.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I don't know who's making all these decisions.
Hard to figure.
Honeycutt and Roberts have to have something to do with it.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do.
I'm sure Honeycutt does.
Yeah. So I just hope the way these guys are pitching, we haven't touched on this at all night long. How good a little bit we did. The bullpen for the Brewers was lauded coming into this series, and the only way the Dodgers could win this series was if they victimized the starters for the Brewers because the pen is so good. And it's almost worked out in the reverse way, and yet here we are, one game away. And I think the relievers now are a little, if Dodgers can get up a run or two early, we keep saying, and they haven't done it yet.
Right.
Well, maybe one, but not two. And here we go into Game 6. You don't really want Game 7. You got the guy on the mound who you really want. Ryu's been phenomenal all year.
Yes.
Right.
And Miley, screw him. He walked the first guy.
I took him out. I took him out.
Right. Council's been way too cute. He never should have taken Miley out of that game,
Yeah.
They could have been up 3 games.
Well, my old adage, I've been saying this before we even, for years, I said this all last year during our radio broadcast, our podcast. I was trying to convince people, and I convinced no one, but that's okay. I believe it in my own head. I tried to convince Fred Wallin and a few other people. By and large, a baseball manager will not win you games during the season, games that you weren't going to win in spite of him. But he sure as hell will lose them.
Well, you got a great
hell will
point.
lose them. Just look at Darvish in the World Series last year.
Yeah.
Robert is 100% to blame for that.
Yes, he
100%.
is.
100%.
And Honeycomb.
If the manager, what I was trying to get across 20 minutes ago is that if Bernie Rose was standing in the Dodger dugout today, and Doc Roberts was somewhere fishing, he wasn't even there, the Dodgers still would have won.
Yeah.
Because you know what? You're not going to, you have those, you say you were like incredulous that this guy played center field, then he played right field, then he played second base, this guy played first base, then he played second base, then this guy played here and there. The Dodgers have been doing that all year and all last season. That's the type of team they have. They have a team like a chessboard. They can move all over the place.
Exactly.
And that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
It's amazing. It's a very good thing, yeah.
But in order to give these guys credit, these managers credit for like winning it, I know I coached baseball on many levels. The highest level I ever coached was in college, NCAA. And I'm here to tell you right now, I lost some games for the team. I won nothing. Everything that team won. This is no false humility. This is no bullshit. This is the truth. If I just sat there and smoked a cigar and let them play the game, they would have had a better record than when I made moves. Because when I made moves, invariably, sometimes they would not work out, and we would lose that game. And managers continue to do that at every level. I see it all over the place. When I watch the College World Series, my head is, I have to change the channel. Some of the moves that those guys make are just, they should be strangled. They should be shot. They're horrible, horrible moves. Let these guys go out there, do their thing. To bring in 9 pitchers, in spite of Roberts, the Dodgers won last night. Not tonight, last night. He brings in 9 pitchers. Come on. You know what?
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get to see too much of last night's game.
Horrible.
I tell you what, I was in the
and
studio.
now today, well, you know what? You probably saved yourself some more gray hairs because it was just incredible to watch. And now today I'm watching.
Oh my God.
And you know how Vince Scully used to say, if you come to Ebbets, or Red Barber actually used to say it, if you come to Ebbets Field, you'll see something you never saw before. That's how great Ebbets Field is. Well, I'm telling you, I'm watching this postseason, and I'm seeing things that I never saw before. I see a guy eating food out of a plastic bag on the field in between.
On the field.
I see a manager come out and pull the pitcher after one batter, and he's not injured. I see things that I just, you know what? Sometimes I look over at my dog, And I just shrugged my shoulders, and my dog looks at me like, don't look at me. I don't know. I don't get it either.
I tell you what I see.
Clara was hungry, Peter.
There's some really interesting things. There's some really interesting things that we really haven't talked about.
What? What's that, Bernie?
Yelich is hitting 150 for this series.
Yeah.
You know what?
Braun 238.
I didn't want you to mention that because he is
I know
so
you
good. He is so good. I don't want anyone to wake him up. Don't wake him up. Just leave him the way he is. He's a nice kid. He's going to win the MVP.
Yeah, but Aguilar and Yelich do not have an RBI or a home run in this series.
Now, are you giving me carte blanche to get on a plane to come down to Florida and smack the living shit out of you? If the next game Yelich goes 5 for 5, Aguilar goes 5 for 5, and the Dodgers lose?
We're coming to Florida, mister. We're coming after
you. They've been keeping Turner. They've been giving Turner a tough time, but yet he's come up with 3 big RBIs.
Yeah. Don't you love Turner's at-bats?
Oh, you have to.
Just watch his at-bats.
The way
love to watch Turner.
So professional.
My favorite player.
Oh, man, what an at-bat he takes. He never wastes an at-bat.
What about on the field? Look how good he's on the field.
He's
unbelievable.
Just terrific.
He makes plays with your head spin. Yeah.
Terrific.
And Aguilar was hungry.
Yeah, he was hungry.
Yeah, there you go. Well,
be lucky he didn't pull out a ham sandwich.
Oh, man. Give me strength. Somebody help me out.
I have never in my life ever seen anything like that.
Never. Well, keep watching. Keep watching because you might see something that you never have seen before.
That's right.
And we certainly have seen it so far in this series. Gentlemen, I hate to do this, but I think we have to wrap this up. Bernie, before we leave the air, I want to thank you for coming on again the second straight week.
Thank you, Bernie.
I don't know how the schedule works out for the remaining of the postseason with the World Series involved and everything. And I don't know if you have a gig next Wednesday night, but I officially invite you once again to come back and share with us for the Dodgers in the postseason on our podcast a week from tonight. And you keep that in mind. You let me know.
I appreciate that. Well,
I
actually have a gig next Wednesday night. I do.
Oh, you do? Oh, okay.
Yeah, the 24th. Yeah.
All right. That's okay. All right. Just thought I'd throw it out there. We'll carry on without you. And
we'll be in touch.
Well, we love
Absolutely.
it. We love it.
We'll be in touch.
I enjoy it. Thanks so much, guys. It's been a blast.
All right. Listen, I want to thank my partner Ron Rabinovitz. I want to thank Fred Wallin, who is on assignment tonight, and our guest Bernie Rose. This is Peter Trunk saying good night, everybody. Go Dodgers.
Good night.
Go Dodgers. Good night, guys.
This has been a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.